Hi, Wyatt here. Going to show you a very, very interesting new tool. It's called the Kleshna Ring Weaver tool. Tool comes with two separate bases. Those two separate bases are, one is for size 4, size 6, and size 8. The other is size 5, size 7, and size 9. What these will allow you to do is, of course, make rings of different sizes. We couldn't put them all together in one because the holes would have been on top of one another, so we elected to do the odd sizes on one and the even sizes on the other. The kit comes with these two bases, these two foam inserts that hold the pins in, and then 18 knurled pins. That's 2 pins extra than what you actually need. The sizes are marked in the base to tell you which base you're actually using. So this one we're going to use today is 5, 7, and 9. We're going to make this small, the size 5. So you just take the pins, and because we want to do the smallest one, we're going to be dropping them down the most narrow row of holes. So you just drop these and continue dropping them down into that closest row of holes, closest to the center, that is. And the knurls on the ends will stop the pins from going any farther once they reach the knurled portion. Love that word, knurled. Just seems to be perfect for this. The kit also includes a plastic box, so you can put your pins, the extra pins, in that, and when you take this apart, you can then replace the pins into this plastic box. So we'll use the extra ones and put them in here and close that. And then, oh, that's why there's not 2 extras. I put an extra one in here. So we'll take that out. It's supposed to be 2 of those. Perfect. So now, all I have to do is place this into the end and push down nice and hard, and the Weaver tool is now ready to be used. There's a little hash mark here, which is where we're going to start. The other one actually has a circle, so you know if you've got the odd or the even based on the either hash mark or hole. So we're going to be using a piece of 930 Argentium wire. So I've just bent this in approximately in half. One's a little bit longer than the other. And then I'm going to loop that loop over the pin that's closest to the hash mark. Then I'm going to hold these 2 wires and, moving from my right to my left, go up and over the pin that's just to the left of the original. Then that's going to go underneath, and then this one's going to go up and over, and that's the weave. So behind and under, and then this one goes behind, just like that. So once you get that down, just have to make sure that you're continuing around the end, and just continue on. Now, a lot of people ask, shouldn't you have this attached to the desk? I don't think that would be a good thing for me, because if it's stuck down, then you don't know where you are, and you can't continue turning it each time that you put the wire onto the next peg. So as you notice, because there's 16 pegs, we'll come around fairly quickly. And you could be using many different types of material with this, but for this one, we just want to use the silver wire so that we can show you quickly how this will turn out. So I've just passed the starting point, and so just continue. I'm going to go around about 3 times, and then we'll begin what's called the re-warping. What we're doing now is called the weft, W-E-F-T. Kind of a strange name, but in regular weaving, what we call the warp pins here would actually be the warp threads on a traditional style of a loom. But here we have warp pegs, and so we're doing the weft around the pegs, and then we have to replace the pegs with actual warp. There's a lot of W's involved in that, but you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Now, I've come around exactly twice now, so one more time around. And you can notice it doesn't use up that much wire to make a ring in a size 5. The interesting thing about making these rings is increasing the diameter of the material that you're using will also decrease the size of the ring. So you want to keep that in mind as you're thinking about what materials you're going to use. One of the features for using the wire is that what's left when you pull this off, once you've rewarped, you pull this whole thing off of the tool, and there are circles left in the wire. And I'll show you what that is in just a second. All right, so I've just reached the third time around. Now you just kind of pull this up. You don't want to pull it off, but you do want to get it farther up these pins so that it kind of comes together. Now we're going to start the rewarp. So you want it up to the edge here, and then I'm going to pull this longer one down, and then very carefully I want to come up the next group of loops, straighten the end out, and then just come right up through there, making sure you go through each one of them. So that's the first rewarp. So then you just pull that taut, just like so, and then you're going to go down the next one. So I like to leave my finger in there, and you can just kind of slide this right down the edge of the warp pin and push that out. Now the first couple of them, you have to kind of hold your thumbnail under here and then pull this down and just get it nice and tight. So now that's going to start holding the entire ring together, and once we get that rewarped all the way around, then we'll be able to slide it off and then do any additional anything additional that we want to do to this, but like putting beads on it or attaching other different types of either a piece of chain, or you can use head pins and put other things on. You could also be adding beads onto this rewarping as you go around. But on this video, we're going to just keep it kind of to the basics, and then in a minute we'll show you all a bunch of the finished pieces we have. So again, we're just going to pull this down nice and tight. And you can see now that this is gathering this along the way and getting it into a nice tight little group. And sometimes you need to re-straighten this a little bit. Just makes it a little bit easier to slide it right straight up the pin and through there. And if you're having trouble doing this, you might just straighten the wire just a little bit more and find the best way that you like it. Now make sure that you're moving from one pin to the next and not going back through the same pin, because that would negate what you just did. And make sure that this doesn't wrap around one of those pins. It's got to be like that. Now the kit does include 26 gauge wire, that's this, and it's dead soft, and so it makes it pretty easy to do this rewarping. As you move up in diameters of wire, it is a little bit harder with thicker gauges of wire and wires that are a little bit hard to be able to make this sort of sewing motion. But this wire works perfect. So we're making our way around, and it does take just a little bit of time, but as you do this, each one of them gets a little bit faster each time you do it, as with most things. Okay, just up and down. Now this could also be done in a circular motion. Instead of going inside each one, you could go around and back through. So that's another different way that you could do the rewarps. You could add beads onto that as well. So there's not a lot of rules. Once you learn the basics, then you can just kind of, like with other jewelry stuff, you can just have some fun with it once you learn the basics. And this wire here marks where our starting point is, so we're getting there. Here we got some, just keep that loop to where we'll just pull right down nice and taut. You could use a different color of wire to do this. I just like to tidy it by only having a single wire that you have to attach at the end to the other wire. This one's going to be a little bit of a problem because I've got a little bit of a hook in there. You can see how soft the wire is by the way that it straightens right up when I need it to. There we go.
We can totally, like, you know, just finishing this whole thing, it can be trimmed and, yeah.
But I have to get this finished because otherwise I don't have the end piece.
Yeah, no problem. What we'll do is we'll do like fades or things like that in between segments, because you're just repeating the same.
Yep. Okay. Now, because we're back to the starting point, what I want to do is I want to take the other wire and go down into where this wire comes up so that we can finish it. So I'm using the other wire here to...
You're a little bit all over the place.
Hmm?
You're a little bit all over the place, like heel slip. There you go.
All right, so now I've got both of the wires that I'm going to be able to come up through here so that the two wires are together. And this is going to be one way that you can finish this that I find the easiest. Let me pull this up so you can see. So now these two end wires are coming out of the exact same place. So one of the easiest ways to finish this off, well, first you can pull this off of the ring tool. And when I was talking earlier about the loops, if you can see this, these are open loops. So what that means is, because this is all made out of wire, if this ring is the wrong size, you can go back and stretch it to close down these little openings so that you can make it a larger size. So these are definitely easy to size afterwards, from smaller to larger. You can't make them smaller, but you can certainly make them larger. So now what I do to finish this off is just twist this a little bit so that it twists inside of where the two wires came up. Get it started twisting, and then take your pliers and just twist it a little bit tighter, making sure that that twist goes all the way down into the inside there of those loops. Cut it loose, leaving just a little bit of that twisted portion still in there. and then just feed that back down around the back or the front and back into the center portion of the wire. Just try to get my hands out of the way so that there's no sharp edge. So now we've got our finished ring. That loop's a little bit large there, but you can squeeze it and twist it around and make it pay attention. So you've got your basic ring that's 3 rows that can now be adorned with various different things. You can wire wrap onto it, you can put things into it, just about anything you can think of that you'd want to put with it. So I brought a whole bunch of different styles of rings with me to show you. The one thing that's interesting about these rings is they don't have to necessarily be rings. They could be findings, they could be pendants, and they could also be parts of chain. So you're free to be able to use these any way you want. That's a great example here that it just is used as a pendant. So you just put a head pin or something through it and use that as part of a necklace. Some of the rings that we have down here, I've used various different types of things. There's leather, there is raffia, there's material that looks like leather, there's even some Christmas looking material that's red and green that was twisted together. That one, the one that you were focusing on there, has beads that were incorporated into the rewarping. So as you're going up and down, you could add a bead on at the top and at the bottom, or several beads. It just depends on what you want to do. This ring here has beautiful wrap overs for that were added on afterwards. So this it's a little bit hard to see there. See how that is coming up and over from the bottom, and then has a central place where the 2 wires goes through 1 bead and holds it together on the top. That all can be done afterwards. So once you have the basic form of the ring, then you can adorn it in any way you'd like. I hope you enjoy using this new, interesting tool brought to you by Beadalon through Jewel School. I'm Wyatt White. Thanks very much.